Pop Culture Pastor.
All right, Cody. I need some help with identifying motives and what's going on with one of the characters before we even get into the episode.
Okay.
Okay? I'm going to give you a couple of choices. Was Beard avoiding Ted because he was upset with Ted for feeling some sort of abandonment issues? Or was he avoiding Ted because he knew he was an assistant coach on the men's team and just couldn't be with Ted?
I think part of it was he didn't want to put Ted in a very difficult position of trying to beg for Beard to come over to his side and upsetting Roy. Also, what if Ted didn't beg for him? Then that would be even more devastating. So just avoiding him altogether avoided this weird conundrum in his head.
Well, that would make sense given that something has gone awry with his marriage that we don't know yet.
We don't.
So he could have some abandonment scares here.
I don't blame him.
Yeah. This is Pop Culture Pastor, the podcast watch-alongs for Ted Lasso Season 4. We're here to recap Season 4, Episode 2, Curiouser and Curiouser. Little Alice in Wonderland reference.
Oh, I see what you did there.
And we do have a new character named Alice. And
What?
We'll get to her. But that makes sense because I got to be honest, Cody, the first time I watched this, the first time through, I thought I just had all the wrong identification on that. I thought Beard was like upset with Ted.
I could see that, like how you would think that. I didn't feel that for him, but some people definitely did.
But they were, I think I brought my own stuff into it, like my own abandonment issues. I'm like, oh, he's mad at Ted. And then that wasn't it at all.
This is what happens when you leave and go back to America.
Did Ted Lasso just therapize me?
Maybe.
All right. Well, first of all, Cody, I also want to ask, did you enjoy this episode more than last week's?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good. God, you don't have to tell me anymore. I just wanted to know where we were going. If I was going to have to beat you over the head with something. Still a lot of exposition. We got a lot of people to meet, so there was still a lot of building going on, but we're getting closer.
Yes.
Okay. Curiouser and Curiouser. We start off with Ted waking up. Well, we're unclear at first, but in order to sort it out, we need to start with Beard's Jam of the Week.
Is that what we're calling this?
That's what I'm calling this now.
Okay.
The song of the week is now Beard's Jam of the Week. And it's Honky Cat by Elton John. I love this song.
So it's not the theme song?
No, we're not going with the theme song. Although it's a very fine song. I don't know what it is with you and the theme songs. I don't know. Do we always have to talk about the theme song?
We do.
I mean, it's a great song. But no, we're going to talk about Honky Cat by Elton John. Because Beard's Jam of the Week, we talk about songs inside the episode, not at the beginning of the episode. Although this one is at the beginning of the episode. Just go with it.
Okay.
Honky Cat from Elton John's 1972 album Honky Chateau. Bernie Taupin wrote the lyrics. Bernie Taupin, Elton John's longtime writing partner. And this song's about a country boy leaving the farm for the city lights while everyone back home tells him he's out of his mind for going. They're begging him to come back where he belongs, and he goes anyways. It's about a rural guy going to the big urban city.
I know someone that's done that.
Yeah, Cody. This show opens with Ted waking up in a rented room above a pub 3,000 miles from Kansas, and this is the song they picked. And this might as well be the theme song for the whole show. They probably just, it's easier to get Marcus Mumford's song and not pay Elton John the many royalties they probably had to pay to get to use this song.
I will stick with Mumford.
Yeah, it's a good song too. Can't go wrong. But Honky Cat fits the whole situation of Ted Lasso in England perfectly. Scene 1, Ted waking up. He's back in Richmond. He's living in a rented room above May's pub while he waits for Michelle and Henry to arrive in a few days, he says later in the episode. He pours himself a bowl of mini wheats, this time regular size, unlike the first episode.
Yeah.
Where it's a big giant one. He is disappointed that they are not giant. And yeah, I don't know what that has to do with any of the episode. I think it's just a callback.
You're welcome.
May seems happy to have him back, especially because the usual renters, as she says, either have dogs or cocaine habits, apparently both of which leave the apartment in dreadful states.
She isn't wrong.
Poo everywhere, she says. I was not aware of that, and I'm not sure I had to be.
You live and you learn.
He goes out. Well, first of all, she tries to give him a Guinness for breakfast, which I actually knew this about my British folk because I have some British relatives. Guinness is like a meal there.
It is.
And she tells him so. She's like, this is a full meal. And he's like, I'm going to pass. And so she has her second of the morning.
If you want a good theologian, Oswald Guinness.
Okay, I've never heard of him.
Yeah, he's part of the Guinness family.
Oh.
That makes that
Okay.
adult beverage, but he's a world-renowned theologian.
I will say this, Cody. I was never much of a beer drinker, but Guinness I actually enjoyed. But you do need to have it it's like a meal. You have it on an empty stomach.
The charred remains of the barrel is what I call it.
It's almost like having a beer milkshake without the milk. Yeah, he walks outside and there's like his walking path is closed, which I assume he walked down that path at times. And he's like, oh, things always change. But then the old guy that's always calling him names comes up and calls him a name and flips him off.
That was rude.
And he says, some things do stay the same. And we go to AFC Richmond. We see two women doing work on the field work, which I don't think is an accident, given the goings-ons of this episode. I think we're meant to see that, hey, Rebecca gives jobs to women.
Or does she?
Leslie walks into Rebecca's office with two huge binders. Higgins has had an analytical report done to look at the financial viability of women's football, or as he calls it, QRTHLLMNNOR, something. I'm just making up letters.
That was way too long of a report.
He hasn't read it yet, but he pledges to give Rebecca an update as soon as he has. And Coach Chilton, Alice Chilton, is waiting outside. He opens the door and it scares Higgins. And Alice Chilton, I think I'm most excited about this character, Cody, because in every season there has been the character Ted has to win over.
Yeah.
And it just seems to be a good part of it. There has to be the character who, upon meeting Ted, they're like, he's too good to be true. Like, this is hokey. It can't work. And that part gets to be played by Alice, at least here in the first episode. She's a very dour woman, but she's the one who's helped build the women's team from the ground up. She's been the one there helping until they've hired Ted. She walks into Rebecca's office and she resigns.
As she should.
She clearly expected to be considered for the head coaching job. She wasn't. Rebecca hired Ted instead. And she asks if Rebecca considered any woman. And Rebecca's like taken aback. And she says no. And then Alice gives her this look and walks out.
I was Team Alice at this point.
Okay, well, Diamond Dogs. It's time for the Diamond Dogs, Cody. Woo! Cody, Diamond Dogs, thank you for participating. Here's what I'm thinking. Alice Chilton is a prickly character. She's rude, and she might be completely right. She was the one helping build the team. She's been there doing the work, and when it came time to hire a head coach for the first women teams in club history, Rebecca didn't just pass her over. She didn't even consider her or any other woman. And I think maybe that might have been a mistake. I mean, she should have gotten consideration. Now, we know Rebecca's a strong woman. We know she's knows what it's like to be a female in a male-dominated space. That's a big part of her story's arc. But she still had this blind spot. And she didn't even see it until Alice kind of put it in front of her face. So here's my question for you, Cody. Because Rebecca has trouble with this episode. She isn't a terrible person, but she does eventually figure out that Alice had a point. And what I want to ask you is, why is it when someone tells us the truth about us that we get defensive and find it easier to focus on maybe how rude they were, or how they brought it up to us instead of whether they were right.
I would say it's probably because we don't like it when others see our flaws, make us aware of our flaws, and we are people that don't like to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And when someone calls you out, you are very vulnerable in that moment. And so it's real easy to say, oh, well, they're just judging me because they're a jerk face, and point it right back at them instead of saying, well, why would they say that? Is there some evidence in support of that? Or there is clear evidence in support of that, but they don't have a complete picture.
Yeah. Yeah. Keeley has come for obvious emotional support in the aftermath of this confrontation with Coach Alice Chilton. Rebecca is beside herself at the allegation. How dare she? Keeley agrees. Higgins reminds them that she didn't actually say any of the things Rebecca is imagining.
But she did.
Don't be daft, Leslie. It was implied. Implication is everything. That's my Keeley.
Nailed it.
I love that Keeley is just going along with everything because she's like there's two kinds of friends, right? There's the friend who's going to tell you like it is. And then there's the ride or die like Keeley, who's just going to be like, you're so right, even if you're not. But Keeley is encouraging Rebecca as a woman's rights warrior and says, besides, you didn't hire just any man. You hired Ted Lasso. And at that moment, Ted comes in and says, actually, my middle name is Frickin'.
Yeah, it is.
Because Ted is a Kansan and we believe in de-escalation.
And we don't use that sailor talk.
Look, we've said this before on watch-alongs for Ted, but it really is true. Many Kansans are just a different kind of cat. We're just different. Cody, I think Hannah Waddingham, by the way, who plays Rebecca, does a really good job in this scene because even as she is getting all revved up, it's pretty obvious by the looks on her face that the reason she's all worked up is because Coach Chilton has hit a button and she knows that she had a point.
She did and does. And I even have a fix to this, but...
Okay. You gonna wait to the opportune time?
Nah, we can.
No, you can do it now?
It's not going to ruin anything.
Okay. Yeah, hit me.
So the fix is you really want Ted because of the culture shift that Ted will bring. In several organizations, past players get executive positions that have them around the team but really don't have them doing a whole lot. I think back to John Elway with the Broncos, although they claimed he did stuff. I don't think so. You have Ted in one of those positions where like he can then interact with both squads, the men's the females team, and you then allow Alice to take the helm and have Ted come around, give pep talks, also interact with Alice, and like coach her into being a better manager of the pitch with people, because I think that she might not get along with all types of people.
Yeah. In the real world, you bring back Ted as like a general manager almost.
Yes.
Yeah. I can see that.
Maybe not have him do all the signings and firings, although that would be an interesting show.
Yeah. But this is a TV show. And he's got to be the coach.
He does.
Ted gushes over the coach who made him the dossier.
Fancy.
Over all the players on the roster and mentions he can't wait to meet Coach Chilton. And they all get real quiet. And, of course, it's Higgins that finally speaks up like, oh, I have bad news, Ted. That was more like a Beatle than Higgins, but she resigned. Keeley says it might be for the best as she is, she really struggles. Keeley and Higgins both try to diplomatically describe Alice's personality, and Rebecca finally loses her patience and says, just say it. She's an absolute. And then the show cuts to the trainer, like a trainer introducing herself, and her last name is C-word.
Yes.
It was very clever. I see what you did there. Also, potty mouths.
Come on, British people.
It was a great gag, though. Perfectly timed. I enjoyed it. Plus, Carolyn Seward, who is the trainer, is sufficiently very weird, which also,
I'm here for.
Yeah, also is very entertaining. Roy is head coach of the men's team now, and he is having a press conference, and he's still very much Roy.
I'm here for Roy also.
He refers to one of the journalists as Paddington Bear. And then, like, when the journalist starts talking, as the camera's moving away, he kind of sounds like the bear, which is funny. But Ted is just kind of walking by after he smiles at seeing Roy. He finds the men's locker room, and he kind of goes in to reminisce. He sees familiar names above the lockers, and he looks at the Believe sign still hanging on the wall. And then Roy comes in and surprises him. And they embrace after so many words.
All the feels.
Ted points out the difference in his office. And Roy says this is recent. Beard, who has been suspiciously absent in the episode thus far, wanted to be alone. And Roy alludes to the thing with Jane. Quote, the thing with Jane. And Ted seems to know about it.
Well, I would hope Ted would.
Ted asks about Coach Chilton. And Roy says, most people think she's rude. I think she's hilarious.
That made me LOL.
It did. There were several I was glad to see after last week where, man, it seemed like we talked all about it in episode 1 about how there seemed to be a lot of heavy lifting for the exposition needed.
Very much so.
There were several laugh out loud moments, and I was with you. I laughed out loud then too. Ted leaves and Beard flips open the blinds he was hiding behind the whole time and hilariously startles Roy, which also made me laugh.
He reminded me a lot of Forrest Gump.
Yes.
After Forrest is walking across America or running across America.
He definitely looks like Forrest when he's running across America. Ted checks out his new office, which is basically a glorified closet. And Coach Alice Chilton walks in. Ted is as chipper as ever. And she says, let me guess, you heard I was rude and difficult to work with. Yeah, it's nice to meet you. Ted's the best, man. How can you not love Ted Lasso?
Because you don't love life.
He thanks her for the dossier that she made. He hasn't studied anything that hard since the liner notes of License to Ill by the Beastie Boys, he says.
Which she was blissfully unaware of.
Yeah. He makes a reference to fighting for your right to party and then moves on. Ted says he's going to go say hi to the team, not really accounting for this is a women's team and a women's locker room. And Coach Chilton, I like that they are giving these little parallels with Roy, because as he's walking away, she's like, oi, oi. Yeah, she says, you can't just walk into their locker room. Let me go in and check that they're decent. And he really didn't consider that. That was a great little scene to think, oh yeah, this is the first time for him too. He's never coached women.
He has not.
So the women have been shoved into quite the cramped space as well. This locker room, which looked like an old mop closet, single bathroom, one shower, and they called it a locker room. Just like in season 1, though, with the shower pressure issue, if you remember that all the way back then, here we see that Ted cares for his players, whomever they might be. And so he recognizes, hey, this locker room situation isn't good enough. And this becomes kind of Ted's first real order of business as coach.
That locker room was worse than the locker room at my middle school.
Yeah, that was bad. But it's the episode's clearest statement about how Keeley and Ted are actually valuing the women's team.
Someone needs to.
Yeah. Ted finally does meet with the Lady Greyhounds. He meets Boots, the goalkeeper, who refuses to wear gloves and is, in the kindest of possible terms, a bit off.
She could be Mel Gibson in Lethal Weapon.
That's a good comp. The Irish twins, Naim and Shaban. I hope I'm saying that right.
I don't think we are.
They're aggressively hostile to each other, and they're good for some laughs in this episode. My favorite part was like, touching me. Why are you touching me? I laughed out loud at that. The show kind of gives us these little sketches of the characters on the team because there's so many of them. It's going to take us time to get used to them, but the twins kind of take front and center with us. And this season's presumably going to fill in a lot of that. Finally, we get to go have Ted's press conference, and Rebecca is there waiting for them, and she leads off with this over-the-top forced speech about how she values women's athletics and all women everywhere all the time.
I love the reporters in this.
What about Eva Braun? Well, no, not her. Ghislaine Maxwell. Come on. Who did they say last? Oh, Cruella de Vil. Oh,
yes.
That's not even a real person. Come on. But again, we see that clearly her conscience is getting the best of her. Ted takes questions and is asked almost exclusively, well, not almost, exclusively about the men's team. Nobody wants to talk about the women's team. And you see the little humiliation here that's sort of played for laughs, but where it's actually something real, which is another Ted Lasso staple of a real issue kind of being introduced to us in a silly, funny way, but we see the problem. And even though Ted is a good sport and he's answering the questions as diplomatically as he can, this kind of shows the uphill battle they have to make the sport relevant.
Indeed.
Yeah. And this is nothing new. Like even leagues in America, obviously, like the WNBA and women's soccer, the national team have had various battles for them to try to claim their relevance. When the same journalist from Roy's presser asks Ted a question, he is revealed, by the way, to be dressed exactly like Paddington Bear.
Indeed.
And nobody says anything on it. It's just a sight gag, and it's pretty funny.
I loved it. I was like, they know what is good humor in Paddington.
We get another glimpse of Beard, who's secretly watching Ted's press conference. He's got his phone inside of a book, and he's pretending, of course, not to be interested when Roy tells him that the press conference is going on, but he's clearly interested. Ted joins Coach Chilton and the team out on the pitch. He's continuing to get acclimated with the players. The Scottish twins fight. They're early front runners for my favorites of the whole team. I just enjoy watching them, especially when they later on, when they get a new locker, and she's like, yours already smells like ARSE.
It does.
Which I don't even know if that's a bad word. It's just the British version.
It is.
But I'm not going to say it just to be safe.
For this podcast.
Ted has a discussion with Alice about how the goalie doesn't wear gloves and how that's costing her shots to move higher up the ladder. Like that she's a good enough goalie, she should have been with somewhere, but other teams higher up have concerns on why she wouldn't wear gloves. We go to Keeley and Roy and Rebecca. Roy and Rebecca were already talking, and Keeley kind of joins them, and there's this whole conversation about them needing a new locker room. And she gets Rebecca to agree to give them the visitors' locker room, but there's work to be done on it first, because Roy is going to have to help Keeley because he has set up extensive booby traps.
I love this.
This was amazing.
Psychological warfare.
Except he says it's common among teams. It's just expected, except he takes it to another level because he wants them to, quote, think they're hallucinating.
The random pillar just in the middle.
So that the coach couldn't talk to the whole team at the same time. That's amazing.
Training rats.
Yeah. He's deployed a trained rat named Jonathan, who they taught to run back and forth when the lights are on. That whole scene is wonderful. It's playful too. It's a nice scene because we get this, like, there's clearly, Roy still clearly feels for Keeley. We don't really know where Keeley's at. I don't know if she's doing the whole I want him to fight for me thing, or if she's really convinced herself that they should just be friends. But there's like the part where he lifts up the bench she's sitting on, and she gives this look at him, and when he turns away, she's clearly still smitten with him.
Or is she?
She totally is. I don't understand it, but they are, quote, really, really good friends which I can't imagine that nobody in the audience watching this show believes for even a second. Roy is clearly still in love with her. Keely is kind of holding the line at platonic, but I don't think she wants to. Ted and Beard finally reunite at May's after Beard sends him a milk.
Ew. Because Ted had just got done drinking an adult beverage.
He says he's in disguise, of course, because he doesn't want people to see them talking or to see them together. Ted discusses the heaviness around the woman's version of the sport because Beard asks him how his first day was. And Beard picks up. He knows exactly what he's talking about. He says, yep, lack of resources, underwhelming media coverage, subpar pay. It's a tougher gig all around. To which Ted says, kind of like coaching college kids again. And Beard says, nah, they get paid more.
They do.
It's true. Sadly. Ted asks about Jane, though, and Beard immediately gets up and leaves. Nope. So Beard is clearly still scarred by whatever has happened with Jane.
He is.
Something's clearly gone wrong, and the show doesn't tell us what yet, but I'm sure we will find out. Beard is also contractually attached to Roy in the men's team right now. This is what's discussed as well, which puts him in an awkward spot with his best friend back at the building, who he clearly wants to be with. So later on, Roy finds him observing Ted's practice from afar with binoculars.
If they didn't know that you were watching Ted, like people would say, that guy's a creep.
Mm-hmm.
Creeping on the ladies.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Ted asks Alice what Boots' story is. Now, this is a common theme of the episode, the story. He's wanting to know the story of some of these players. To which Coach Chilton is like, what does that even mean? What do you need to know their story for? And after a short chat, he says he's going to go find out for himself. So he just like walks onto the field as they're scrimmaging, pulls her aside, and she says all sorts of crazy things.
She does.
And he walks over. He's like, you're right. Goalies are nuts. And back on the field later on, Ted's telling a story about twins that he knows when I'm like, I don't know where this is going. Why is he telling this story? And then we hear a yell from the pitch. It's an injury to their best player, their striker, who I forget her name, but later we find out she tore her ACL. It's pretty serious. The mood drops immediately. Obviously, Alice, who has already resigned, who has no obligation to really anyone there anymore, sprints straight to her. She's the one who's nurturing the player through it, and she goes with her to the hospital, which I think kind of shows you her character.
Again, Alice might be the perfect fit for this job.
Yes, I agree. In the aftermath, Alice returns to the building and finds Ted waiting in the office for an update, to which genuinely surprises her. She tells Ted about the ACL, and he says, poor kid. And she offers, I've seen my fair share. It's devastating every time. She'll be out for the season. And Ted says, I appreciate you looking after her like that. And he's getting ready to go. And she's like, she was our starting striker, you know? And then to which he says, you said hour. See you in the morning, coach.
Yeah.
And so you get this, she's got ownership. He's pointing out like, you've got ownership and you should stay. And it's just fun to see Ted work, the way he impacts people, because I think there's some truth to this, the way he impacts people. And I'm going to get to it later, but I just want to point out that like, I love that it's not a quick thing. We see her ease into being affected by Ted. We get this weird scene with Rebecca and her mom that I didn't really understand the point of until later.
Okay.
Because it's a really pointless scene about her not eating cheese anymore, but wanting to eat cheese, something cheese-like.
I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, it seems like it's mostly just played for laughs and to get that actress back and say, oh, Rebecca's mom's still alive. Great. But she drops this hardcore line at the end, which I thought, wow, that was a hardcore line, and I'm not really sure what it's doing there. Again, I think we find out later. But she says, women are monsters. Men showed us the way, and we perfected it. And I think she's not totally wrong. I think women can be awful to each other in a way that men showed the way to, and women can be especially harsh to each other for some reason. And so, yeah, it was just a hardcore line. I wrote it down in my notes and I thought, I don't understand what that scene's doing, but that line was uttered.
Also, she does say that she hopes Rebecca is not a feminist.
Yeah, right.
Which then also gives you a little bit of insight into her upbringing.
Quote, "We raised you better than that." Alice, first of all, Ted calls practice at the end of another practice. We get the end of another practice. And he acts nonchalant, but he clearly has a surprise prepared with a new locker room for the team. Keeley has had it all painted up, and now it rivals the men's locker room. And we get this wonderful scene of the team going in and how thrilled they are. And then we get a good look at Alice during this, who really hasn't shown one bit of emotion through the whole episode except for anger. And you can tell she's fighting back tears. She's nearly overcome with emotion as she's fighting back these tears, watching the team in their new digs. And Ted asks her if she wants to see the new coach's office, and she just hightails it out of there, much like Beard did.
Yes.
She just leaves. And later on, he joins her in the old office as he passes the new candidates for the next assistant coach outside. They're waiting outside. And Ted gives her a wrapped going away gift and walks out. Then seconds later, he walks back in and announces that he sent all the candidates home because he's already found it as assistant coach. She says, "Who?" And Ted reveals this is my favorite scene of the episode. He reveals that he did his homework and he starts telling her her own story. He says, "Well, she's from Lewisham, working class family, was a skinny little whiz kid of a midfielder over there at the Arsenal Academy, known for her work ethic and being a real expletive," which Ted spells out, which I think is hilarious, "to the older players. We're talking captain material, a superstar in the making. Until at 22, she tears the ACL on her left knee. Spent the whole year doing rehab. First game back, she tears the other one. 2 years after that, tears the left one again, bringing her playing career to an end right then and there." This is the emotional payoff of the episode, Cody, and I was all in. I was just sitting there I was in it with Alice. As you could tell, she's recognizing okay, he knows about me. And Ted tells Alice basically that he knows her story. He knows about her talent, her tragedy of her career, everything. And we see the importance of the stories and what Ted knows that Alice didn't. It's our stories that make us tick. It's our experiences that we choose to learn from. And even our darkest moments can turn into our greatest strength. And Ted knows that. All of that doesn't come on a dossier or a resume or any other report. You only get to know that about people when you genuinely care about them and get close enough to them. And I thought that was awesome. I thought this was a wonderful scene.
It was a frustrating scene.
It was frustrating. How is it frustrating?
Because he takes back his gift and I don't want to know what the gift was.
I think we're probably going to find out what that gift was at some point.
I don't know.
I think it doesn't usually leave us with Easter eggs left unknown. In fact, if I had to guess what's in that box, I'm going to say it was nothing. I think he knew that she was going to accept the job.
Box of chocolates is my guess.
Okay, we'll see. We'll bring that up again when they tell us, because I'm sure they will. It's a relational action moment. It moves her, and she agrees to stay. It's pure Ted Lasso stuff right there. Just then, as she accepts, Beard pops in. It's like, "I'm back, baby!" And Roy fake fired him.
I just want to know who's paying his salary.
Well, I mean, Richmond, right?
The ladies' team doesn't have the funds.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Maybe they're just not going to replace him on the men's side.
I think that's a way for some familiar faces to potentially come back.
Maybe, but also hold on to that. Maybe if they don't replace the salary, this scene makes a lot more sense, because we get Higgins, who comes into Rebecca's office. He's read the report, and he kind of breaks the news that this is something serious here to Rebecca. The women's team has poor long-term financial prospects, and if the investment fails, it could damage Richmond's men's operation too.
YOLO.
So she appears very torn and asks Higgins what he would do. And now I want you to remember Rebecca's mom's quote and put it next to this one where he says, my mom used to say that strong women stand up for themselves and stronger women stand up for others. So the difference between a glass is half empty character and a glass is half full character. Not that there's, glass is half empty has probably served Rebecca's mom at some point in her life. And glass is half full people can get disappointed. But in this case, the contrast made sense to me. And that's when I realized, okay, so Rebecca was getting bad advice from her mom.
Rude.
But not unlike Alice herself, as they're closed off. Something bad has happened to them, and that's the reason they're closed off. So, yeah. Rebecca arrives to Coach Lasso and Coach Alice's office with her recommendation letter and gets ready to give it to her and give her a piece of her mind. But she kind of lands on gratitude for Alice helping her with some self-introspection. She does advise her to have more empathy next time, though. And Alice tells her she's decided to accept the job. And then she makes a joke. Rebecca does. And there's this awkward tension, which is good for a laugh. And also, I need more scenes with them two together.
You're going to get it, buddy.
Yeah, because I think them two together was hilarious. That whole end scene where she's just kind of staring at her as Rebecca awkwardly makes a bad joke and kind of celebrates that she's staying. But yeah, that's the episode. We get the credits with Sisters Are Doing It playing over the credits. Cody, now it's time for Who Grew? Who grew for you?
Well, I will tell you, it's not the city of Richmond. All those punks were trashing Ted because he was coaching the girls.
Yeah. What's up with that?
And I'm like, oh, this team's going to go under because all these people are jerks. Yeah. But who grew for me is my guy, Roy.
Roy grew.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell me about Roy.
Because he actually is being considerate of other people's feelings in this. Mm-hmm. Not only Keely's, which there's a clear motivation for him to have respect towards her and seeing her side of things, but Beard, he doesn't have to placate Beard or help Beard get back with his best friend. He can be like, you're a part of the men's team. You stay on this side. Or, you know what? You're just fired and Richmond as an entirety doesn't want you back.
Yeah. He takes the initiative with Beard, doesn't he?
He does.
Kind of makes the decision for him because he knew he was never going to do it. That's good. And your point with Keely, I agree, because he's gotten in trouble with Keely in the past by making their relationship about him, about what he gets out of the relationship.
Yes.
And it was fun to see him just do stuff for her.
Including removing a pillar/wall.
Yes. My who grew this week is Alice Chilton, because Cody, she had every right to walk. She did help build the team. She was doing the job already. She was already doing the coaching job when they went out and got Ted. And when the club makes it official with Ted, they're basically saying that she didn't just get passed over. She was never even considered. And she walks. But we find out through all this that she's pretty bitter. She's a pretty bitter person. And we find out she's got a lot of good reasons for it. Things haven't gone the way she would have hoped in life a lot. She's had some bad breaks and it's made her bitter, and it causes her to almost miss someone who's legitimately in her corner and a caring person in Ted, who sees her ability to coach right away. Ted's whole goal is, I'm going to engage in relationship with you against all odds, whether you want me to or not. I'm going to try and learn about you and know you and be someone who's committed to being in relationship. And so she's learned in this one episode what takes some people a lifetime, which is that bitterness, even though it might be honestly earned, she has good reason to be bitter. But bitterness is a locked door. You feel like you're protecting yourself, but all you're really doing is keeping yourself from opportunities in front of you and people in front of you who may actually want good things for you. And that's my who grew. It's simple, I know, but I just love that character. I'm smitten with the character of Alice Chilton. I loved everything about that storyline.
It was a good one.
Yeah. Cody, how many feminists out of 10 are you giving this episode?
I think last week I was at a 6. This week I'm at an 8.5. We're back, baby.
Yeah, all right. You have more variable than I do. Because
Yes.
I think I said 7.5 last week. 7, but half a point just for the Kansas City stuff. I think I'm going to go 8 this week. I thought this was a solid episode. It's a good episode. Still some building going on, some exposition. We had to meet a lot of new people.
I'm good with building if it is logical. And we're back on the pitch, so it's logical.
Yeah, it is. I think it felt like Ted Lasso, whereas episode 1, no matter what you thought of it, you have to admit it didn't feel like Ted Lasso because it took place in Kansas City. It was just weird. But I think I like this episode a lot. I'm excited about next week's episode. And yeah. Anything else?
No, I'm good.
All right. We're just waiting for next week. Do you think we're going to see Nate at all this season?
I mean, there's now a roster spot on the coaching side of things.
Okay. I would love to see some Nate.
Although I don't know if Nate goes and becomes an assistant coach.
Yeah. He probably has head coach pedigree by this point. Okay, what did you guys think of season 4, episode 2 of Ted Lasso? Curiouser and curiouser. What did you agree with us with? What did you disagree with us with? Make sure and subscribe to the pod so you don't miss any of these recap episodes, and we will see you next week.